Welcome back to Shifted Reality Season 1, Episode 10. Here I am standing in front of my tower that we built in the last episode, which we are going to be looking at the internals decoration of that today. But I noticed something as I came out here to survey and make a plan. Do you see what I see on Spec Space? What the... What happened to her parking lot? This was all finished this morning, and now it's full of potholes or something. And yes, she also removed my handicap parking spots. I had talked to her a little bit about her base, and she basically said that she removed the handicap because it didn't really fit the lore of her base that she was going for. And it kind of got me thinking, what is the lore of our castle? Because this is season 1 of Shifted Reality, because this is the first time I have been posting my builds onto YouTube. This is actually the 7th iteration of the server that I play on, and the 3rd iteration that I am on the server. And the first time I was joining the server, I built a village that was way far removed from everybody. And so I called that the Boondocks. It's Midwestern slang for a remote location, which I actually later learned related to Filipino word for mountain. So not really sure how that ever came about. And then when that server reset, my next build was a ocean build where I was trying to rebuild Atlantis. But now I'm building the castle, and I haven't named it yet. I haven't really given much thought as to what the lore of the castle is going to be. So what do you think we should name our castle? All right, now we just got to start decorating our individual levels. Hello, kitty. Now, how do we want to fill this in? Now, I am going to start at the top of the tower going down, because I think it'd be easier to move villagers up through here without having a bunch of obstacles in the way. So I am going to focus on that first. What? Where'd all this come from? I'm sorry, I just couldn't think of a good transition, and I kept having some audio issues every time I was trying to describe this as I was building, and ended up getting most of it done off camera. But let's walk through what we have here. We of course have brought in our villager, and as I said, one of the villagers I wanted was a cleric, because I needed a way to get rid of rotten flesh and pick up potions of enchanting. And I do tend to like to use glowstone as a light source. Actually, this whole room is lit up by glowstone, because on Bedrock Edition, slabs are transparent to light, and there's glowstone underneath the floor. That's why it's so bright in here without any visible source of light. And since it has no animation, it doesn't really add to server lag at all. So that's always a plus. So I start off with this little workstation. At some point, I'm going to go ahead and move up all of my brewing supplies that I use for making potions, because this is going to be where I tend to brew potions, is up here. And then over here I have a little science experiment of growing amethyst crystals. Obviously not really, since you can't move budding amethyst, but you'll notice the 3 upside down copper rods and the trapdoors is enough to keep the water source blocks in place without dripping and running all over the place. And since there's only one block underneath the water and a space above it before you reach the crystals, oh, there it goes. Every once in a while, the copper rods develop a little water droplet and drop it down onto the amethyst, giving the sense and the life, that motion, that the copper rods are what is growing these crystals in this laboratory. Now, one thing I should point out, I put the amethyst in the floor in this case. And if you want the crystals to be more visible, you can certainly put the amethyst behind the mangrove trapdoors. But if you do that, you gotta make it one higher. You gotta make the sides 3 trapdoors high instead of just 2. And the only reason I really couldn't do that in this particular build was just the fact I didn't really have the room. And then over here we have a little workbench, and actually I was thinking about this. My next level I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to use this, but instead of growing amethyst crystals, we're going to be using pots and potted plants to bring dead plants back to life. Or maybe I'm making poisons that's killing the dead plant, that's killing the plants. I'm not really sure how it will look, but we'll take that. And of course, yes, more chiseled bookshelves with random books. But nope, I just actually picked that one up. And over here we have a couple of tanks of chemicals and other experiments, that's running through pipes from one copper to the other. Something else you'll notice, these are slowly oxidizing, and this is personally my pro tip. If you want to have oxidized copper in your build, honestly, don't take the time to pre-age the copper. Yes, in the case of a YouTube video like this one, if I wanted to show you my vision of exactly how this would look once it was completed, starting with pre-aged copper allows me to do that a lot quicker. However, if you're just casually playing on a server with friends or family, what I'm actually doing, spending the time to age the copper in advance is really just a waste of time. It's time you have to keep your computer online, keep your game running as you AFK and wait for all that copper to age. But if you just build what you want and know that eventually you're going to want it to be green and let it age on its own while you're building the other aspects of it, it will turn green before you even realize it. And that's fine. I mean, you don't have to rush everything. Here I have a little pipe coming out the wall and running down to the lower level, or maybe the lower level running up to here and where it's coming in at. But I'm going to do something different with this one. I got ideas. Anyway. And here, I don't know, some sort of lab machine that's running, and it was supposed to have gauges. And down here I have obviously the clock is 1 gauge. And this one up here, oops, I want to have as my another gauge, but I need a different something that kind of moves and shifts a little bit more frequently than just the clock. And I'm thinking the best bet is the recovery compass. And of course I have fence gates in here because villagers don't currently open fence gates. I don't know if they'll ever change that. But that keeps the villager from wandering up here and jumping off to their doom because, villagers are prone to do that. And here I just use a couple potions I have lying around as decoration on the wall, just to kind of complete that little look of a laboratory. And we're going to do a similar laboratory build down below. One thing I don't like about this, and go ahead and put your suggestions down below as to what I should do, because fences don't connect to wall blocks, but fence gates do connect to wall blocks, but fence gates are down 1 notch, which then creates this nice little fence gate to help keep my villager in his lab where he belongs. But then it just drops down on this one, and it just looks weird. I know sometimes it can be done to create a rather nice, elevation pattern or wave in your build. But in this case, it's just so out of place, and I don't really have a fix or solution for it. But let's get some more decorative blocks and come down here for our next section. So for the next level, as I started decorating it, the first thing that I'm putting in is a combination between the workbench and the amethyst grow station. And I wanted it to be at eye height this time, so I moved it over a little bit and kind of used the space, above the stairs to get that to fit in, so I could put the water all the way at the top of the ceiling, have the one gap so you see the water particles dripping down, and they are now landing in these pots. So now if I take these pots and then I put the dead tree in the first one, the popacule in the middle one, and the cherry sapling in the third one. Now, tell me, does that look like he's experimenting with bringing the dead plant back to life? Or does it look like he's experimenting with poisons in order to kill off the plants? Either way, I think it's a good addition for the Alchemist laboratory that I'm working on. Since Bias Icewing is currently online, I went over to him to buy some recovery compasses, since he did a fair amount of Ancient City raiding, and I personally don't really care for dying over and over to wardens. Now, he charged me 30 diamonds for 3 recovery compasses. Do you think that's a fair trade? I don't know. I don't really have much use for the diamonds anyway, since everything can be traded for, so it seemed more or less like a fair trade, I think. And it certainly saved me some time, and it will help with our designing of the tower. And man, Bias's room here is like a zoo. I don't know why he has so many animals inside of his house, but either way. Unfortunately, my video of pulling the next villager into the tower got corrupted and didn't save correctly. And I wanted to show it because before I said I was working top down in order to thinking it'd be easier to move villagers through empty rooms like this. However, I realized whilst I was trying to make the stairwell too wide, this spot right here is technically only 1 wide, and I can't fit a boat through it. So the only way that I can take villagers in is I can't take them from the top down, I can't take them from the bottom up. I have to take them through the wall and just scaffold them up on a boat with a lead. And so here's my newest villager and his Alchemist workstation. And since I had the trying to experiment with life on the plants, I got the idea of why don't I put a zombie head and a villager head here and have a similar experiment going on. I thought that was quite a funny idea there. But shelving them, I added a bit more shelving here, some taxidermy heads, a iron golem head. I thought that was kind of a throw out to Full Metal Alchemists. Maybe you get it, maybe some people won't, I don't know. And as I said, I didn't pre-age it in this copper, and just in the time it took me to design down below and get that villager in, all the copper settings up here have fully oxidized to the green color that I wanted. That way, I did not have to waste the time sitting around waiting for it to oxidize. I just keep on working on my base, and I keep making progress, and it will turn the color I want it on its own sooner or later. And if I do ever come back and want to make it shiny again, I can always use my axe, clean it up, and then use honeycomb to lock it in the stage that I want it to be in. And I've decided I'm going to continue with my Alchemist theme for one more level. However, at this point, we're very close to the newest update. That's going to give me a lot more copper blocks to work with. And since I kind of feel that some of my steampunk or copper machinery is starting to look a little bit similar between the first two levels, I'm going to wait to see what I can really get out of the newer copper blocks that are coming out. So that might delay the next episode, but I think it'll be a rewarding wait and reason for delaying to try and get a more of a different feel and a vibe in the third level. So we're not just more of the same, in just a little different ways. So while I'm waiting for the next update to finish off the alchemy lab levels of the tower with the new copper blocks that are coming out, I've been working on a few random projects. And no, it's nothing major, nothing groundbreaking, but just a few little things here and there that should probably be taken care of. So, like, for instance, B wasn't particularly happy that Ash gave me all of their bookshelves, or to be more specifically expressive, that Ash said that I could take the bookshelves and didn't specify that I shouldn't use them all. So I've been trading with my villagers that hopefully this will make him happy and pay him back with interest. And we'll just go ahead and label this on both sides. So there we go. 2B from Innovate. And we'll go ahead and spend the glowing to make that nice and bright. And there we go. And time to head home. And a couple of things that have changed while we are waiting for the update. My son apparently did not like the roof of the guardhouses, so he made a little structural change. And I don't mind it. It looks pretty nice. And another project that we finally got done is a stairway up the mountain just to make it easier for people to come and go if they choose to visit us from this direction. Probably went a little overboard with the lanterns, but I think they look nice. And now that B is made whole with interest on his bookshelves, we can now start buying the bookshelves from the villagers. Breaking the bookshelves down for the books. And resume randomly placing them up on the shelves. And this apparently happened whilst we were offline. The gold farm, built by Wrecker, that is directly next to our base, apparently malfunctioned and started releasing piglin everywhere. This created such a lag and so many entities, it threatened to shut down the server in and of itself. Fortunately, B and by Icewind were able to lead the piglin away from the AFK player and get them to despawn in order to save our server. And then another friend of our server came along and was showing me there's this fun glitch in the update, or I don't know if it's in the update or if it was before the update, but apparently occasionally you could just cruise around on camels while they're laying down, and you just get this fun little like drifting racing effect of a like almost like a sports car. I wanted to do something with like Tokyo Drift, Fast and the Furious, but I just couldn't figure it out. And of course, with the update of 1.21, a lot of you Well, maybe not a lot of you, but I asked what I should do first, and most people said, hey, trial chamber. So me and Red Ore went ahead and started trying out a trial chamber. None of these mobs are particularly challenging or groundbreakingly difficult, and we had a fairly good time just working together, collecting keys, opening up the vaults, and generally raiding the valuables. But overall, this was a general, easygoing kind of little side quest and a fun thing to do, especially with friends in an SMP server. I would honestly recommend, if you are planning to do a trial chamber, do it with a friend. Split the keys, split the loot. It works out very well. In this particular case, we ultimately were joined by a third member, Bias Icewing. However, while I can duplicate the template that we got, I can't duplicate the heavy core that we got. And so the only two people that managed to collect a heavy core by turning in their ominous keys was myself and Bias Icewing. I'm not really sure if using a mace is anything of any importance to me. Might just offer the mace up for sale to the server, to whoever wants it, because aside from putting unbreaking and mending on it, getting the other enhancements that will actually make it super useful requires a lot more rating and a lot more fling. Oh yeah, here you can see his Icewing actually kind of showed me a side as I was setting up to record, and he got the first heavy core, which, I mean, according to the way that the log is set up, I probably would have gotten instead. You know, I might apologize a little bit. I cut that last little clip short. I didn't fully play out the new discs that I collected in the trial chamber because I honestly couldn't really stand it as a music disc. However, it does give me an idea. Last time, actually, no, not the last time. The first time I joined this particular server, I had an idea of making a bell tower that had a complete ringing effect for when it was sunrise or sunset. And whilst we got it to work, the range of the bell itself ringing was not very far. But the range of music discs is a bit longer. So I'm thinking this music disc might actually be a solution to a flaw that I had in a build like a year ago. And I'm going to build it again. I don't necessarily know when. And Ash, I may ask you once again to figure out how to solve the redstone issue of having it go off when the sun sets and the sun dips. But honestly, I think this is going to be a much more simpler design because all we need to do is tell it to play a music disc. So look forward to that. For when we build a bell tower, we are going to use that music disc for that bell tower. So I laid out the new copper blocks to see what they look like, get some inspiration. And I decided in this level I'm going to open up the walls and put in some windows. Let a little light in for the villagers. What the? Is this a visual glitch? I know I put a window in that wall. Yeah, right there. Huh. I guess the color is so subtle it's blending in from a distance? And I know I want to open this level up and give it some windows, but it definitely needs to stand out more. Let's get on that. There we go, that's better. Still not as much of a pop as what I would want, but I think it's just because of how tall and how far up we currently are. And I'm thinking not the level below the window, but 2 levels down, we are going to add in an exterior balcony just to really change up the shape a bit more. Now I made it more visible by giving this kind of copper archway treatment, and I was going to do the same thing on all 4 walls. But as you can see, the far wall, I couldn't do any more than a 2x2 window because of where the stairs go. And really wouldn't be able to give the window treatment that way. And the sides I'm able to give the 3x2 windows, but I'm not able to do the same archway window treatment because of the placement of the stone arches that is supporting the roof. But you know, I think just having it over on that side is going to work. Now, I haven't really played with these new copper blocks in any kind of like beta or experimental setting. I was waiting strictly until the final update before I used them. How do these respond to water? Okay, so we can be waterlogged, but the water flows out on all sides. That's actually kind of disappointing. I wish either if you could waterlog them so they stayed in there and didn't splash out, that'd make a rather nice pipe system to be bringing water through here. Or if water just poured straight down without coming out the side. That would also be pretty cool. You notice it doesn't come out this side. If I put it here, it does come out that side. Something about this block being here prevents it from coming out on this side. So this might be something we can work with after all. There we go. Now it's starting to look like a couple of water tanks are feeding in to it, and this is just the outlet where the water is pouring down into the system. With the fireplace in place, it looks like it's heating that up. Let me go get my water tank banners. There again, it's all about the motion. So many things in Minecraft are so static. It's just really nice to have some motion in your builds once in a while. Anyone else feel that? So I decided, now that everything has turned the lovely shaded green and watching it through its transition, I decided that once I get my hands on some honeycomb, I am going to use an axe to bring it all back 1 level. And that's just because that's the dirtiest, grungiest looking shade of copper. And I like that. I think it will kind of fit with the aesthetic of our lab here. But let's go down and see the portion of the lab built with the new copper blocks. You can already see the introduction here a little bit. As I said, we already kind of showed off the build, and of course we have our villager's workbench over here where he can brew up his things. I still need to get some books for his bookshelves. And alas, his dream of building a copper golem will never come true. So it's just going to hang there and rust. Such a sad fate. In this case, we put in a different type of door, mainly because I wanted the entrance to the alchemy section to look more mechanical, vaultish, secured. And well, I could have used a copper door. I like the trapdoors. I wanted to get that X shape on both the top and the bottom. I think that looks a little better. Tell me what you think. Do you think it looks better with the double trapdoors, or do you think it would look better if I used a normal copper door to secure the lab of the alchemists? Leave your comments down below. Bye!